You see what sending out them negative waves did, Moriarty?
But oddball, I did try and tell them, but they won't listen. I tried.
Sure.
But I did try.
Oh, man. Don't hit me with them negative waves so early in the morning.
But I can't force them to listen. I can't.
Always with the negative waves, Moriarty. Always with the negative waves. Have a little faith, baby. Have a little faith.
But I keep trying. Oddball, I keep trying. But they won't listen. They won't tune in. They really won't.
Why don't you knock it off with them negative waves? Why don't you dig how beautiful it is out here? Why don't you say something righteous and hopeful for a change?
Tune in to Awake Radio for your positive waves.
Hello and welcome to Locals Supporting Locals, the heartbeat of the Okanagan radio show. I am your host, Kevin Proto, and I have with me my powerhouse of a co-host here, Dee Nicholson. How are you, Dee?
You keep saying that.
I just said powerhouse. I didn't call you a lady. Don't get mad at me.
I know. But every time powerhouse, I have to perform.
Okay, so folks, we got an exciting show for you tonight. The title of it is "Are GMOs Turning Us to Franken People?" But just a couple of updates before we start the show here, because anybody who knows or has been following Locals Supporting Locals from its inception, one of the biggest things we like to promote is with the corporatization, globalization that's taking place, which is fascism at the end of the day. One way to make change, positive change, is to take back local governments. And so I just want to mention something that's happened here at Franken that's very exciting. Is they started up a Facebook page, these three ladies here, Jennifer Taylor, Marissa McPherson, and Kizzy D, called Time for Change Penticton. And it's crazy here because Jennifer Taylor started it on August 11th, just the other day in the afternoon, and by 10 p.m. they had over 1,500 members. And as of right now, as we speak, there's 2,241. Now, I just have to say quickly, because I know we got a show to do here, but what instigated this was one of our city councilors. We had a festival here called Boonstock, where they had a bunch of bands come in for 3 days. There was a lot of hemming and hawing about liquor licensing, blah, blah, blah. And after the show, she was which went off very well. Sadly, there was one person that OD'd. But when one of the city councilors was asked if she had went to the event, and she said no, she says, "I'm not a head-banging druggie," so she did not make it. And that just triggered an effect that went throughout Penticton like a wildfire here. And the young adults have now committed to making sure that they can get Katie Robinson off the council. They said, "We have never been involved with politics, but now you just woke us up, and we're going to make it our mission to get you out." But at the same token, now this is the time for us to talk about really important issues, which brings us right back to the show here. And I don't know how many...
Kevin, while referencing just what you just said, which is actually a rather important thing, I just want to reference an old saying: evil thrives when good people do nothing.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I've been saying for years, when masses will wake up, somebody stomps on their toes. Don't wait for that. If we wait for someone to stomp on our toes, we're all going to be too late. And this is basically the main reason why we have our illustrious guest with us today, who, by the way, people, is one of the most knowledgeable people on the planet about the dangers and the need to know information about genetically modified organisms, and that is Dr. Thierry Vrain. I have to welcome you, Terry, and thank you so much for joining us today, because there's major stuff going on in terms of GMOs, and that's what we're here to talk about, right, Kev?
Good evening. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we hear you just fine, thank you.
Good.
But there were a couple of things that I wanted to address first off with you, and that is something I learned about you yesterday that rather fascinated me. A long time ago, when I was first learning about the initiatives to form a one-world government, one of the thoughts that went through my mind at the time was that, you know, it wouldn't be so darn bad just to have a one-world government, provided that government is beneficent, benign, compassionate, and good for the people. On the other hand, a one-world government that has ulterior motives, that is what we're all afraid of, and that is in fact what we would get were that to be instituted tomorrow. Now, I found out yesterday that you have a similar stance on genetically modified organisms, and that is that, you know, it's not really about, is it, whether things are genetically modified. Ultimately, it's about, are they safe? Are they healthy? Do they do us any good? Are there lies and corruption involved? Are people going to die because of it? Is the environment going to be harmed? If all these questions were answered, no, there would be harm done. There would be nothing. So this is particularly, this is what I grokked from the article that you posted, explaining that you don't say that all GMOs are bad, but that left people with a question in their mind. And you know, darn it, I have to agree with that stance. You're saying safety first. It's all about safety and benefit, isn't it?
Yes, it's a little bit of a play on word, because when you say GMOs, you know, most people think about what's in the store, the ingredients, the food that have been engineered from the engineered crops. And it turns out that practically all engineered crops today are Roundup ready. They belong to Monsanto Corporation. They have been engineered to be sprayed with the herbicide. And that is where the problem lies. So, you know, all the other engineering technologies in agriculture are either on the shelf, or they're the future, or they're wonderful, but they're not happening at all. But the reality is, it's all Roundup ready. So basically, it's all Roundup ready food in the store. We have Roundup ready food. We're all on a Roundup ready diet.
So we're literally eating glyphosate, aren't we?
Yes.
And can you just like give us a little bit of shock treatment and enlighten our audience as to what kind of effects glyphosate can have on living organisms?
Let me give you a let me give you a little bit of the story of the history of this molecule, glyphosate. Glyphosate, if you read the literature from the biotech industry, glyphosate was invented in 1970 as a herbicide by Monsanto, etc., and became a huge success. And that is not correct. They did not invent the molecule at all. They bought it from another company called Stauffer Chemical. Stauffer Chemical was creating molecules that could clean up pipes, industrial pipes and boilers, you know, hot water. You know, when you have an electric kettle at home, after a few months, you have some calcium or mineral deposits on the side of your kettle. Same thing in the industrial boilers, big gigantic machines full of, you know, thousands of gallons of water, and all the minerals in the water will actually eventually go on the side of the boilers and in the pipes, and decreasing their efficiency. So industry people always put in the water some chemical that will keep the minerals from depositing on the sides. It's called a descaling agent, or maybe even a chemical that will remove the scale, that will take, you know, all the previous deposits. Mm-hmm. And they were creating new molecules to do that. And they created one which is glycine methylphosphonate, glyphosate, It's basically a short for the chemical name. That was filed for patent in 1961, and they had their patent in 1964. And all that time, and all the 60s, that molecule was quite popular as a descaling agent, a chemical that will remove metals from the water. That's what it was designed to do. If you read the patent, it's very obvious that it's a very powerful and mostly very broad spectrum descaling agent. That means that it can grab all the metals, not just a few. And so it was discovered sometime a few years later that it kills bacteria and plants. It kills bacteria and chloroplasts in plants, which are bacteria also, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, forgive me, but I have to say, what a surprise that it would kill bacteria if it'll descale lime off of pipes.
It kills bacteria and plants because it interferes with an enzyme in the bacteria and in the chloroplast. An enzyme that's very, very important for the bacteria and the plants. And it turns out that animals do not have that enzyme. So therefore, when the molecule was discovered to kill bacteria and plants, it was patented as a herbicide and later as an antibiotic because of the way it works. Because it works by grabbing the atom. My goodness, I have to give you a lecture in biochemistry here. An enzyme is a protein that has at the center of the molecule an atom of metal. The atom of metal is an integral part of the enzyme protein molecule. And here comes glyphosate molecule, which steals the manganese atom from this particular enzyme because it's very strong. And it steals the atom. The enzyme does not work anymore. And the cell becomes ill after a while, and the organs don't work, and etc. So very quickly the bacteria and the plants die because of this enzyme shutting down. That's how it is patented as a herbicide in 1969 by Monsanto. And then in 2005, I discovered by somewhat serendipity, I was looking for patents about glyphosate, and they had a patent where they basically declare that it is a biocide. It will kill pretty much everything. A biocide. And then in 2010, Monsanto also obtained a patent for glyphosate as an antibiotic. It kills bacteria. Voila, that's how it works. Now, how does that relate to human health? Well, it's another long story, but basically your listeners need to learn and know, because that's extremely important, that we have in our lower intestine, in our belly, we have a huge community of bacteria, thousands of species of bacteria, 100 trillion cells, which is 10 times the numbers of cells in a human body. So basically 90% of the cells of your body are bacterial cells. And those bacteria are basically in charge of many, many organs of our body. They make the serotonin in our brain and other neurotransmitters. If you don't have quite enough serotonin, you're very depressed. If you have less than that, you're going to be seriously mentally ill. And then there's the other neurotransmitters. And they also make all kinds of molecules, those bacteria. They make all the vitamins, all those molecules that we call vitamins that we don't know how to make. They make them. The plants do too, etc., etc. And so if you have in your food residues, like, little bits of that chemical that was sprayed on the crop before it became your food, then it's in your food and it goes into your stomach and it is antibiotic and it kills the bacteria in your lower gut. And the medical establishment, the medical research people over the last 10 or 20 years have shown how incredibly important this organ is. They have given it a name. It's a new organ, as important as your liver or your heart or your brain. It's called the microbiome. And if you have a Roundup diet, residue of the chemical in your food, you are killing those bacteria and you will become depressed and you will show all kinds of other symptoms because they are essential to your health. That's how it works.
Oh my gosh. And coupled with that, you say that, and I'm a dot connector, and you're talking about how these things can cause depression. And, we're all focused on Robin Williams having committed suicide because of depression a couple of days ago and all of that. And I look around and there's so many people who are on medication. The percentage around the world of people who are on medication because of depression is massive. And here you are saying that the very food we are eating is helping to create the conditions. It's like pharma is feeding itself. This is like Ouroboros, the snake that eats itself. It's incredible. Each is feeding off the other. They're feeding us the stuff to get us depressed and then feeding the stuff to get us undepressed. Craziness.
Well, it's funny you say that because, and there's nothing funny about it, but we see the high rates of cancer here. I've had a number of friends and friends of friends that have been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And of course, there's alternatives. And right away, I'm out there, I can send you, I have friends that can help with the alternative to healing cancers here. And what the number one answer has been coming back from, and it's ranging from the ages of 50 to 70 with some of these people is, you know what, I've led a good life, it's time for me to go. And they just don't have that joie de vivre, that will to live anymore is what I'm hearing and finding out.
The microbiome is extremely essential to your health. And if your diet is detrimental, then there will be consequences. And we see that there's a doctor in Seattle, Dr. Nancy Swanson, who put together statistics from the Center for Disease Control, and this is all from the USA. We don't have the equivalent in Canada, but I assume it's pretty much the same. And she put together the statistics from the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where they keep statistics on, how many people were diagnosed with cancer or obesity or diabetes, etc., every year, year after year. And then she also looked at statistics from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they keep tabs on how many acres of wheat, how many acres of potatoes, how many acres of soybean was sprayed with Roundup, how much Roundup was spread all over the U.S., etc., etc. And she put the two sets of data together to do a statistical analysis called a correlation analysis. The correlation analysis looks at just to see or to suggest that there is a link between the two sets of data. And so she did that. She did basically how much glyphosate on soy and corn and how many people diagnosed with obesity this year, or autism, or thyroid cancer, or kidney failure, etc. And it's quite remarkable. She's got a whole set of those correlation graphs, and they're incredibly interesting, I suppose, or suggestive. And then she also has all the correlation coefficient, and these are extremely convincing. I mean, as a scientist, you cannot ignore such high correlation between the number of people coming down with this particular disease and the volume of glyphosate sprayed that year in the U.S. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I actually saw that article by Dr. Swanson, and I was absolutely gobsmacked by the information that she shared. It's just absolutely terrifying to see the extent to which... This
is something that you need to tell your listeners to go to, and they have to look at themselves. It's quite convincing.
Yes, well, we'll have to make a note of that on the website and put the link up. I'll have to go and look it up again. But I only just saw it about a week ago, and I went, holy cripes. And I forwarded it to all of my list. I'm sure some of you are listening right now, and you probably got it. If you have it, forward it, please. I'll be sending it out again. And thank you, Thierry, for bringing that up, because it's an incredibly important report. So where, I'm hearing, now we've got news that there are new studies coming out that are showing even more deleterious effects of glyphosate. They don't just extend to the human body, do they? I mean, we see them environmentally. There's linkage to bees, to all kinds of problems in the environment. Can you outline a few of those for us?
No, I don't have much details to share, but there are definitely lots of publications, studies that have been done showing that glyphosate kills all kinds of organisms, not just the plants or even the bacteria. I mean, most animals are sensitive to glyphosate. Somehow their environment is depleted in the metal micronutrients that they require. And many enzymes are shut down. And basically some animals that seem to be more sensitive than others, but the frogs have been studied in many countries. They're very sensitive, all kinds of invertebrates. This is a huge mistake that society has allowed this pipe cleaning agent, pipe and boiler cleaning agent, to become a food additive.
Exactly. And this is the kind of thing people need to relate to. Okay, if you did not have a resonance between the word glyphosate and something horrible in your head, it's a little difficult to understand that a corporation would actually go around foisting this stuff on humanity, on the environment, and on the only planet we've got, but they're doing it. So think of this: pipe cleaner, scale remover, lime dissolver, and it's in your food, and it's in your family's food, and it's in your baby's food, and it's in the food that your body is feeding your fetus. Now, was there not a study done in Sherbrooke, Quebec? Are you familiar with that one, Thierry, where they tested cord blood and prenatal blood on women?
Yes, there's a team of researchers in Quebec, a hospital, I think, who had access to a bank of blood, frozen blood samples from pregnant women and their fetuses, and they looked to see if they could detect proteins from the BT technology. It's the different technology. It's not the herbicide. And they found the protein in a large number of them. I think it was like 80% or something like that. It was not reported whether the women were suffering from anything. So and that has not been repeated, and there's not much I can say, but it's a completely different technology. What I'm most concerned with is the Roundup Ready, is the herbicide residues in the food. That's it. That's the focus.
Yeah.
Well, right now, I mean, it is the season here. We're in August here, and this is when our corn on the cob is coming out here. Now, we're very fortunate up here in our Okanagan that we have access to organic corn, but can you explain a little bit about the corn that's currently in a lot of the big box stores that are coming out of California that contain the BT toxin?
I'm not very concerned with the BT toxin. I am more concerned about the herbicide. The corn, whether it has the BT toxin or not, has been sprayed with the herbicide if it is engineered. That's my concern.
Okay, so in other words,
I don't want to play the game of the corporation and kind of change the focus to something else. Because if you look around at what is coming at you from the biotech industry and their their public relations, the message is all about engineered crops and even the BT crops. But they never mentioned the Roundup Ready technology, and this is the concern.
Yeah, it's a deliberate attempt to red herring the population. In other words, they point us to something that is less harmful while they're shoving something really harmful down our throats.
It's very obvious.
Yeah, yeah. I never thought of it that way. Thank you for bringing that up. The point I think that we need to concern ourselves with, Kevin, with the corn in the Okanagan is, if this corn is not BT corn, that's great. But is it going to get the glyphosate? Is it going to be fed the Roundup? Because if it is,
Let me make it simple, okay, for your listeners. It's either organic or it isn't. And if it isn't, it's 90% sure that it was engineered and it was sprayed with the herbicide.
Well, and that's the thing here is, like, this is certified organic. It is one of our local, we got a number of local farms here that are organic. You know, so I'm just throwing that out to a lot of listeners that go to the box stores and have forgotten about our farmers markets and where they need to go to get the access to the good food. So just pointing that out to you there, folks. You know, go back to your farmers and make sure it is organic. If we can bring up something, because this is just taking place as well, is the fact that Russia now bans the import and production of GMO food and tightens non-food GMO restrictions. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, this is a stance that Canada should have taken initially because of our food standards way back. But what are your thoughts on that, Thierry?
Well, I think it's good at this point to remind your listeners that, you know, many countries are labeling the food or regulating the crops or the seeds or whatever. All of Europe and now Russia has banned not just GMOs, but also the herbicide. They want nothing to do with the technology because it's Roundup Ready. Roundup Ready needs a herbicide, and the herbicide is very toxic. I mean, they're not stupid people. They've done their studies. And the Europeans have done their studies too. And the Japanese, and now the Russians, and the Chinese are doing plenty. There was a meeting, a forum of 300 scientists in Beijing last month from the US, from France, from all over Europe and the rest of the world, and Canada. All of them in Beijing to discuss how dangerous glyphosate is and the symptoms of, you know, in the environment, in the water, in the soil, in the food, in humans. This is, the Chinese are quite serious at documenting themselves about what's really going on.
So what's happening?
Russia yesterday, and I would not be surprised at all if China went the same way tomorrow. And then that sort of tells you a pattern about all the BRIC countries. Are they all ready as a bloc to just kind of like get off the WTO and go their own way and not be, you know, not have anything to do with the technology?
Yeah, now you're talking, because, you know, I think I mentioned to you earlier in a conversation that I found the timing of the opening of the BRICS banks worldwide to be rather significant vis-a-vis Putin's recent announcements against GMOs, his ban of GMOs. He doesn't want anything to do with anything unhealthy. And I mean, well, my, Mr. I love to take my shirt off has pulled off a coup. But the question that really comes to my mind is, just how stupid does Mr. Stephen Harper want to look here? Look at the countries lined up to say, no, we don't want this stuff. It's toxic. It's damaging. It needs to go away. All these people around the world are not stupid, but I tell you, Harper and Obama are looking awful dumb right now, aren't they? Mm. You know, and quite frankly, it looks good on them from where I'm sitting, but you have to wonder Why is it? You are doing a phenomenally well-received tour, are you not? Right now, you're doing a speakers tour across Canada, and I, among many others, are hoping to make sure that you actually do make it across the country, because the message you're bringing is critical to all of us. I mean, you've explained just in this last half hour, you've explained more about glyphosate and what it does and how it does it in a clear enough way that I got it. I got it now. And, you know, it's terrifying to me that you're on a tour right now, and I'm wondering what you're getting. Really good response from what I'm hearing. I'm getting, you know, really good feedback. Of course, not from the mainstream media, but they don't count. But I'm hearing that you're getting good response.
Yeah, the tour is very well received. It's a huge amount of work to organize, and I have to, you know, I feel very grateful to the bunch of volunteers who just organize everything. And I just show up and I do my show night after night after night, different towns. It's almost like I don't know, it's like being on tour.
It's wonderful, and of course,
and the audiences are always wonderful. I mean, there's sometimes the odd person who is upset. But
oh, you've met Trish Jordan, have you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can say I had the pleasure of seeing Dr. Thierry Vrain and Dr. Shiv Chopra when he was part of the tour, when they came through here in Penticton, and then down to Soyuz, and it was a full house. It was very well received, and even though we went past the time that we were allowed to be in the room, they asked the audience if they want them to continue, and it was a unanimous yes. So it is a great tour, and it's extremely informative.
Well, we'd like to get you out east here, and hopefully Shiv will be able to join you again. That's Shiv. I met a number of years ago, and I have to say he's top notch in my book. I adore the man. I think he's absolutely wonderful, and I absolutely am so grateful that you and Tony Mitra and Rose and all the crew out there that have been helping you have been doing what you're doing. Could you tell us a bit about the glyphosate testing that you're promoting right now? What it's intended to do? Because Rose and I have been kind of conferring on the back 40 about this, and perhaps we can discuss a little bit about what's going on in terms of the testing and where that information should go.
You know, I don't have the information. I don't really keep up with that project. Basically, this is Tony Mitra's baby, and it's a huge amount of his time, and he's a full-time volunteer for the cause. It's amazing. Anyway, yeah, he started this initiative 3 or 4 months ago when we were in the east, in the maritime provinces. And then he just caught on fire, and then a lot of people came forward, and the lab disappeared under him. And he has been looking at options, because apparently there's absolutely no lab in Canada that will do the kind of work that needs to be done.
Well, Canada sold off all their state-of-the-art labs years ago.
Yeah.
So that kind of obviates any kind of testing being done here. And then again, if you have to hire another place, you're looking at a ton of money, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of testing exactly is it? Like, is it blood test? What is it?
Well, it is pretty much what you may want to be. Commonly it would be your urine that you will be testing. But if you wanted to have your blood tested, that probably could be done too. I have no idea what the indications, the difference in indications would be. So, I mean, I think it's easier to just test your urine.
Yeah, that would give you a pretty quick analysis right there. especially for the masses. But is there like, I don't expect you to know everything about Tony's project. As you said, it's not yours. I'm wondering if you know, is there a cost to the public to do this? Is anyone able to do it?
No, yeah, there will be a cost. Tony had anchored, I think it was $30 basically for a test. So to make, and he was quite pleased with it, to make it good for the public and affordable. Well, and I expect that's what he's shooting for. So he's working on that project. It may be we have to do some crowdfunding or something to start the project, because it may have to be created as a public lab, as a people's lab. Yeah. Well, but you will find all the information about it on his website, which is at tonu.org.
Okay, tonu.org.
Yes.
Great. Well, that sounds like something that he could actually do from a booth in a health show.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you've got thousands of people who are they're already in the choir. You don't have to preach to them.
Yeah.
Right? Give them access. I think, and that's a great idea, because it gives people an idea, like, am I damaged here? Have I already been damaged? If so, what do I need to do? We need, obviously, we've got this huge problem. We need solutions. Are there solutions?
I guess you can avoid the residue by eating only organic food. So we're talking wheat flour, bread, because it is sprayed with a herbicide at the end of the cycle before harvest. And corn for sure, soy for sure. All these products are basically sprayed.
Well, one thing that we can try and follow up, at least here in BC, Canada here, is we had a progressive council, which I'm sure, Dr. Thierry, you met with Harold Steves down there in Richmond. Did you get a chance to meet with him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they've been very progressive. They banned the seed sales, the GMO seed sales within the city limits, and then they also banned the use of cosmetic herbicides and pesticides within the city limits. And it's actually turned out to be a benefit, because now they're collecting all the yard waste and producing some of the best compost and actually alkalining what was very acidic farmland. So it's, this is where, the local elections have to play a big role. People got to get involved, get educated here, and start at local levels, getting local governments to start banning the use of glyphosates and the sale of GMO seeds, the planting of GMO seeds. We got to be progressive from the bottom up, because as we can hear it clearly here right now, it's very corrupted. It's alarming how other countries are full out bans, and we're progressively moving forward here in Canada. It's truly, truly alarming.
Yeah, everything. I mean, I come out my front door in the morning. It's alarming. Give me another thing to be alarmed about. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, and that's the thing too, is people need to understand that yes, that there are solutions. That this is corporatization. And this it's globalization, and what we need to do is localize. Get involved with local politics. Find people that will run, that have the knowledge. We've got one running here that's an organic cherry farmer. He's going to be running for city council, and supporting locals will be promoting him like there's no tomorrow. And that's basically where the solution starts, is right at local levels.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, a lot of us, are they running out there? Are they having any elections where you are? You're out in BC, are you not, Thierry? because we're having elections here in Ontario, and I particularly am having lots of fun questioning candidates on their stance on things like, and particularly on GMOs and all of that, because it's having such an impact on public health. It's having a huge impact on the economy in this way and that way. It's having a huge impact negatorily on just about everything. And then we got issues like fluoride and stuff like that. So I think that, and I hope you would agree, that it would be a really good thing to badger every candidate you got. If you don't have an organic councillor running or elected official running in your area, badger the living daylights out of them, because they work for you. You know, there's your bottom.
I think we need to keep the focus on the residues in the food.
Yeah.
That's really what the question is about.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about the residues in the food? This is where the problem is.
It is exactly where the problem is. And of course, if you back engineer that, all food comes from somewhere. So, you know, obviously you do a lot of branching out from there. But the first thing I think people ought to know is, is there anything we can do in general to identify something that is likely and most likely does contain what we don't want? Are there things that are reasonably safe to eat that are not organic? Is there any such animal?
No, I don't think so.
You know, I mean, I'm a shopper. I haven't seen anything. I look at labels and I go, oh my God. You know,
well, I tell people in general that vegetables and fruits are not engineered, and so they are not sprayed with Roundup. Mm-hmm. The vegetables and the fruits are not sprayed with Roundup. But pretty much everything else in the store contains residues, because in the baking section, the wheat is made from grains that are sprayed with Roundup as a desiccant just before harvest. And then there's the rest of the store, the meat, the dairy. The animals are fed corn and soy, engineered and sprayed, of course.
Thierry, wait, back up just a moment. Did you say it was sprayed before harvest as a desiccant?
Desiccant.
Something to dry the grain?
A desiccant is a chemical that will kill the crop so that the grain can ripen faster and be harvested.
Yeah, it's a drying agent, though, a desiccant.
It's a drying agent, yes. It kills the plant.
Good Lord. So
it's a herbicide, remember?
Yeah, well, they're not, yeah, but, you know, you think about a herbicide, and this is something, okay, here, another light bulb's going on here, because, you know, when I think the word herbicide, when the general audience thinks about the word herbicide, you think about things like, oh, they got weeds in the field, okay? But here you're talking about a herbicide that actually kills the product itself. We're not talking about weeds here. We're not talking about protecting a crop from weeds. We're talking about killing the crop before it's harvested. In other words, we're not getting live food like we would get with a vegetable or a fruit. This food is dead.
Well, I you know, as a scientist, I cannot quite speak the same way you describe it, but without thinking of the food as dead, it is certainly lacking in nutrients. It is lacking in metal atoms, micronutrients, because the food is depleted because it contains residues of a chemical that grabs onto those metal atoms. They are not bioavailable anymore. You cannot have them. And so enzymes malfunction and some processes don't work, and some of them are very important and will kill the cell very quickly in hours which is how it kills bacteria and plants. And there are many other also enzyme systems also that are less important, but they take, it's like a chronic effect, and it takes months before you actually get symptoms.
Yeah, yeah. Holy cripes. I mean, when you really think of it, this is the most graphically I've ever heard it explained in terms of simplicity. Like I said earlier, the simplicity of what you said is awesome. But
it's a pesticide story. It has nothing to do with engineering technology. This is not at all the engineering technology is not at question, and this is where the smart people in industry have moved the conversation to. You know, is engineering safe or not, or is it about the technology and blah blah blah, etc., etc. And then we don't speak about the other side, which is the chemical side of the technology, which is the herbicide.
So basically, the farmers are saving lots of money by using this process. Is that what the farmers are using it for?
This is what they believe. Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
Again, well, I mean, again, it's kind of.
Actually, I'm told that it actually doesn't work that well, but I have no. This is secondhand. I don't remember who said that.
Well, according to Vandana Shiva and a great many others, it's certainly not working all that well with the BT side of things over in India. And as far as everything else is concerned, everything I've read recently has said pretty much what you just said. It's not working out as planned. They're not delivering the benefits. And in the meantime, it's like they've got a pricing policy that I'm sure doesn't care whether it's Roundup or BT technology. And that is they start out selling their modified seed real cheap. And then all of a sudden the price goes up.
I assure you it has nothing to do with the BT technology. The BT technology is 10 to 15% of the size of all the acreage of plants or food, if you prefer to think of it that way. The BT technology is not very important compared to the Roundup Ready technology.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that their pricing policy in BT over in India has been like that, and I have absolutely no doubt they'll be pulling the same scam on the farmers with Roundup. Scam, only their cash raked in would be massively bigger. You know, because they start out, okay, they force people with this technology, they force people, do they not, to buy the seed that is tolerant of the Roundup, okay? They own the patent on it. They're making the money on it, right? And then they're selling the herbicide that goes with it. They got both ends of the market covered. So they can dictate their own prices.
Yes, you're correct.
So this is another aspect. I mean, there's farmers going bankrupt all over the place. Is that because of Roundup? How much do we know on that score?
Well, I have no idea.
I don't expect you to, but I'm sure that would be very interesting information for another show. You know, just to show how one hand washes the other in this instance. And we know that Monsanto is one nasty company. I've had their PR director, Ms. Trish Jordan, tell me that, we would not lie about a pesticide. We would not lie about a herbicide. And yet I got film footage of Monsanto people telling young people in 1940-something that DDT is perfectly safe. And video of young people in a school cafeteria having DDT powder sprayed all over their food and their clothing. And at the same time, evidence showing that DDT didn't wash out of the clothes until several washes later, and that it was absolutely prevalent. So, yeah, these guys lie. They lie all over the place. So now, not only do we have to fight the propaganda, but we also have to fight the effects.
You know, I really don't think it's anymore about BT or about DDT or about any other Ts. It is about glyphosate residues in the food. We seem to sort of wander around and go on to other topics.
Well, no, actually I'm not, because what I'm saying is that the product may change, but the technique does not. They're saying again that these things are safe. They're saying that Roundup is safe to drink in Manitoba. Okay? This is what I've heard most recently from Mennonite farmers in Manitoba are being told that Roundup is safe to drink. So this is the same lying company that I'm referring to. Same lying company that I'm referring to.
Well, even up here, there was an article that was in the letter to the editor, and he was saying how great Roundup is. There's nothing wrong with glyphosate. You can drink it. It's safe. And the funny or crazy part about it is who signed it was the owner of a landscaping company, a herbicide company. And they actually allowed him to put that letter into the newspaper. And to me, I found that to be very wrong, because he's giving people false information here. So, I mean, it's not just Monsanto putting it out there, but it's, a lot of the smaller businesses, such as herbicide companies, landscapers, that...
each other. But to get back to Jerry's concern here, which is absolutely the glyphosate. The point that we're making here, Jerry, is not that glyphosate is not the most important thing. It is absolutely very important. It's critically important. The thing is, we are dealing here with criminals, are we not? I mean, who does this stuff to human beings? These people are criminal. Don't you think?
I don't think I need to respond to that.
Yeah.
It's something, because we got to wrap it up soon here. But something you mentioned earlier, Dee, and I'm not sure if you got quite a bit of time to talk about it there. You said something about the brink banking or brick banking there that Russia is part of now, or?
Yes, that would be Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and
South Africa.
South Africa, yes. And what you've got is a challenge to the World Bank and the IMF for being real bankers for nations, and they are challenging all of that. Now, one of the ways that people are controlled is through finances, and I just found it very intriguing that Russia's stance on GMOs happened to concur at the same time as the launch of the BRICS Bank, which would put Russia and China both solidly anti-GMO, out of the way of the World Bank. They can't be pressured. So I find that
a lot of this pressure here is coming from the World Bank, and
I don't know what pressure is coming from where. I'm speculating, but I do know that this is how nations are pushed around. And Jerry, when you were listing off all those countries and all of those very wise individuals who have obviously done their research and said no to GMOs, and no particularly to Roundup and glyphosate and Monsanto, when you were listing off all those countries, these are all countries that are going to have a very interesting time of it in the near future, because they're going to have to be picking sides. This is ridiculous. North America seems to be the enclave. Are there any other enclaves in the world that you know of where GMOs are so soundly endorsed as they are by governments in North America?
I am not quite familiar with the distribution of who the countries are. Generally speaking, there's definitely a few in South America that plant a lot of soybean, like Brazil and Argentina, and Mexico recently. I think banned GMO corn. I think until further whatever studies or something. I'm not really up on them much on the detail of that.
Well, I think maybe see if I can get some people to take a look at that, because it's starting to look very, very interesting in terms of who's doing what. And as you mentioned, Canada and America are very much lagging behind in terms of their acknowledgement of the information that you're sharing.
Yeah, I since you said you were coming to the end of your show, I would like to just spend a minute with your listeners to just sort of like keep in mind that this is a pesticide story. This is about a chemical that that was invented to clean pipes and boilers of scales, of mineral scales, that is, because it has a chelating ability, it can basically deplete food of mineral micronutrients, and this is very dangerous to people's health, chronically speaking. So that's what I would like to say to your listeners. And thank you very much for this interview. You were a good host. Good night.
Thank you. Yes. But please don't leave for a moment, because I would like you to tell our listeners where they can get more information. Do you want to direct them to a website? What can our listeners do to help you?
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's concern, but I don't really have an organization or a website or anything like that, no. I guess I just let my opinions known. That's pretty much all that I want to do. So no, I don't really need any help in any way. But I can think of, if I did, I probably would make some kind of public appeal or something. But I haven't felt that need, no. So thank you.
Well, no problem. In the meantime, what we will do is we are going to archive this information and share it with everyone we know. And perhaps the best we can do for the moment is to say to people, if you see that Dr. Thierry Vrain is coming to town, please go and see him. Please support this tour. Please do what you can to get this information shared. And thank you so much, Thierry, for joining us this evening. It's been a delight to talk to you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Good night.
Thierry. Good night. And so I know in regards to what you were just saying there, Dee, and how to find out more, the person that's really been documenting the most work that Dr. Thierry Vrain's doing with tour is Tony Mitra. So people can get hooked up. You can find Tony Mitra on Facebook. I'm looking for his website here, but I can't find it. But you can also visit supportinglocals.ca. We often publish a lot of what Tony puts out there, and as well, like we were saying earlier here, because we got to end our show here. Get involved with the local politics. Find good politicians that are educated on today's issues.
And badger the rest.
What's that?
Badger the rest of them.
Yes, exactly. You have to get very involved. And another thing is, too, that we're bringing up for our elections, I don't know how widespread they are across Canada, is we're asking for manual vote counts to be done, because they've implemented electronic voting machines here. And Elections BC has refused to use it because they say they're not impregnable. So we're going after that as well. We want our elections to be fair, or as fair as they can be. So yeah, that's one of the biggest solutions, folks. Get involved with the elections this year. Make glyphosates, GMOs one of the biggest topics. I mean, there is many more. We can get into the whole smart technologies, these wireless meters. There's so much more. And in regards to that, next week we're very proud to have Warner Brock, who's coming on to our show, and he's got one story and a half that where he is actually I mean, it's one conspiracy and a half. You've spoken.
Don't try, Kev. Don't even try.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to explain the story. It's so deep. It's so...
They'll spin their heads for the whole week if you even try. I mean, all I can tell you people, Werner Bach is one hell of a story. You've got to hear this. You've got to hear this. And you better buckle up for it, too.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much to Dee here for joining me again on the show. We'd like to also thank Awake Radio for carrying our live shows. You can find them at www.awakeradio.us.